Hello crafters, this is Jane Fires, independent coach with Fun Stamper's Journey 151. And today I want to show you how I did this one. This particular card is a Merry Christmas card, and that's what we're making today. But I want to show you how I did the wreath up here because it is our stamp set, Build the Wreath. So I'm going to set this aside and we'll come back to it to show you again later. On the inside, I'm using this particular stamp set. It's the most wonderful time of the year. This stamp set is our Build a Wreath. The only stamp out of here that we're using is the leaves over here and the bow today. You could use any of them, but these are the two that I've chosen. And then the other one is one of my favorites, and it's a little one, but it has a die with it, and it is called Winter Build a Scene, and we're going to use the Merry Christmas and our little sign right there today for this one. The nice thing about this one, as you can see, it does have a die with it, so we can cut the pieces out. The other one thing I'm going to use today is our embossing folder, and it's called Cozy Knit. It's in our mini holiday catalog, and as you can see, when I cut them, I cut several colors at a time. Here I've done our candy apple, our limeade, our kiwi splash, and our new chambray shirt color. The one we're going to use is our candy apple today. Now the other thing that I've done already is I have cut us out a square, and it's from the Journey Square die set. It's the largest die, and I've also used on this, as you can see, our corner rounder. And I'm going to also use this on the inside of our card. And then another thing that I used, and I've only done this a few times, and I know it's real shiny, it's our Clearview sheets. And what I've done with them is I have cut me out a little circle. And you're going to see my little circle as we start this card. Now, I've cut this because it's a heavier acrylic. I have cut it with my platinum. But very honestly, even with our platinum machine, it doesn't cut quite all the way through. So what I do is I run it through a couple of times, my big machine, my platinum, and then if it's a couple edges like here and here, then I just cut it with my Pro Detailed scissors. So that's our Clearview sheets. Our cardstock we're using today is our whipped cream, kiwi slice, and candy apple. And candy apple and our kiwi slice are the two colors that are basic tradition for Christmas. And then our Color Burst pencils. Now today with our Color Burst pencils, we are using two of them. And there are 48 in here, but we're going to use two of them. One is number 2 and the other one is number 9. It's candy apple and our bubble gum. So these are the two that we're going to use on our ribbon. And I want to show you the ribbon to start with. Now this one I already have completed, and I have done it with candy apple or with bubble gum first, and then I went over it lightly with my candy apple, and I blended it with baby oil. Now this is this particular one, and then I did sparkle dust on it, which you'll see that in a little bit. This other ribbon, I did not use any of the bubble gum. I only used the candy apple on this one, but again, I blended it with my baby oil. Now you may say, well, why in the world use baby oil? Well, for two reasons. Number one, our colored pencils have an oil base to them, and so rather than using like Gamasol, which some of you may know about, and you could use it as well, baby oil is much cheaper. And you can get it almost anywhere, even at the dollar stores. And so baby oil is what I use. So I want to show you how I did my bows to start with. Now this particular bow I have already put on and blended the bubble gum, the lightest one. This now is number 2. It's our candy apple. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go over it, my ribbon where I want it, and I'm only going to do part of it, but I wanted to do so I could show it to you. Now, in case you aren't new at, or you're new at coloring, when you use pencils, if you hold your pencil back further, you will color much lighter. if you go up real close, you're going to have a tendency to color much darker. So it's the positioning of where you hold your colored pencil as to the lightness or the darkness. Now what I simply do is I just keep a little container of baby oil with my pencils. And then I take one of our little blender, I call it a paper pencil stump, and I blend. So I'm going over my red, and because this bow has no die, I don't care if I go out of the lines because I have to hand cut it anyway. Okay, so now you can see that in the very center of this part of my bow, I have a little pink yet showing. Well, I want it a little darker red, so now I'm just going to go over around the edges with my red and make it darker. And then again, take my little paper stump and just blend it in. Okay, now where my little lines are here, I want it darker yet, so I'm simply going to go over those with my colored pencil. So let me just cut this part of it out so that you can see that where I went out of the lines, it really isn't going to make a bit of difference. Because I'm going to cut up real close to where I have stamped it. So as you can see, where I went out of the lines, you don't even see it now that I have cut that part of it out. But I would finish coloring the rest of the bow again, and it may take 2 or 3 different times of going over it to get the bow exactly the way I want it, in the color that I want it. But that's basically how I do it. Then if I want to take my stumps, for example, this is the end that I used with pink, and you can hardly see the pink, but if I want to clean it, I simply take one of our little blender paper cleaners. It's basically what it is sandpaper, but it's held together on a stick thing that is really nice. And I simply go over it, and these sandpapers can be used for a long time. I've done a lot of stumps on this one. And there, now my color's off and I'm ready to go again. So that's how I do my coloring with our colored pencils. And I just keep my baby alcohol in a container and have it right where I need it to be. So that's how I do the ribbons. Okay, so let's get the card going. I'm going to take my front, which is my white, and this is my clear acrylic circle. So what I'm going to do, and on the back of it, by the way, I have used some of our washi green tape because it will hold it down, and then I can just peel it off. So what I need to do to start with is to make sure I get this in the center of my card. I think that looks pretty good right there, and press it down. Then I'm going to take my leaves, and I'm using 2 colors. I'm using Limeade Splash first, and then Kiwi. And what I'm going to do is ink it up, and then I'm simply going around my circle, my acetate circle. Now if I get some of this on it, it won't make a bit of difference, because when I'm done I can just wash it off. Okay, so I've cleaned my stamp because I'd finished with my limeade. Now I'm going to use my Kiwi, And I'm going to put my kiwi over some of my leaves, but you'll still be able to see those from underneath. So now there is my kiwi and my limeade. So now I can take off my acrylic circle, and I still have a circle there because of course I used the piece of acrylic that I had cut. You could make your wreath any size you wanted to, really, but that one fits nicely right there. So now the other thing that I want to do are some berries. So I'm taking my candy apple and my little berry stamp, and I'm putting in some berries. So now you can see I have a few little red berries in there. And I'll show you once I get my card totally together how I'm going to make my little berries pop a little bit more. But that's my berries. So now the next thing that we need to do are our words. And as you can see, my words are straight, Merry Christmas, but I want to make them a little bit curved to go with what I'm stamping them on. So as I lay it down on my acrylic block, I'm going to twist them just a little bit. And then let's stamp them in kiwi. So now you can see my little S didn't come out very good, did it? Okay. Let's do another one, because sometimes that will happen and I didn't press down hard enough. Okay, let's try this one again, because the other one I showed you, the S I didn't press hard enough, so let's try this one. Oh yes, much better. So there's our words, Merry Christmas. So we have those done. Okay, so now let's begin putting our card together. First thing I want to do is take our inside of our card, and we're going to stamp some things on it. So I'm going to take our little Christmas boughs that I took out of the stamp set that we are using for our inside words, which is Most Wonderful. And I'm using these two little branch pieces down here. And we're going to go and do each corner, and we will stamp off some. Okay, and then the next thing that I want to do with this is I want to round our corners. So take our punch with our corner rounder side and not the notch side, and round our corners. Okay, now we want to take some of those little berries again and put them in between our little branches. So now we have the inside, except for our words, stamped. So now we're going to take our stamp of our words. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And on this, because the stamp is larger, I'm going to lay it down to ink it. But then, because I want to make sure I get my words here in the center, I will pick it up and turn it over on my paper. Now, a lot of times I don't do that. A lot of times I take the paper to my stamp. But with this many words, I want to make sure I have my words right where I want them. and then straight down, and I press this big one with both hands so that I'm sure I have all my words. And there it is. It's the most wonderful time of the year. So there's our inside. So turn our inside one over, and this one, we're just going to run a little bit of our craft glue on the back of it. This craft glue that we have will hold anything, but it will give us a couple of seconds to position it exactly where we want it if we need to move it a little bit. Yep, that's got to be moved over some. If I had taped this, I would have a really hard time trying to move it. But with our glue, it gives me just a few seconds to move it. Okay, so there's our inside. So now let's go to our front. First thing we're going to put down is our cozy knit. Now with our cozy knit, on another card that I did using this, I used our tape. But on this one, I'm going to use our glue. So again, I want to put glue close to my edges. But the reason for using the glue is it will give me a few seconds, as I've said, to move this around if I need to. Okay, I think that looks good, so I'm going to press it down and hold it for just a second. Then I'm going to take my top, which is my wreath, and I think I want to go over the edges with a color just to make it a little darker. And so I'm going to go over it with my kiwi slice, and I simply take my ink pad to my cardstock. Now you can use either the dauber, or you could also use a sponge, and we have both in our big catalog, but I just do my ink pad. The one thing that you do want to remember also is that this month, the month of September, all of our ink pads and all of our cardstock, both 8.5 by 11 as well as 12 by 12, is on sale. So it is a good price right now at 20% off, and every week something for one of our color families is on sale. Their accessories are, and so that also makes it nice because you can add accessories for different color families. So every week it changes, so you need to check back on my website every Monday to find out which color family and exactly what's being put on sale. The other thing is, if you leave me a comment, I will email you when things are on sale. But you'd need to leave me a comment at the bottom of my video so that I know that you want it. So now I've glued down that part of our card, the Build-A-Wreath. I'm going to take our Merry Christmas now, and I'm going to use our foam squares, and I'm going to cut them like I do in half. And these are our medium ones, and I like the medium, although we do have small as well. But the reason I like the medium is because you can cut these any size you want, so you can use them for anything. So take my backings off and put Merry Christmas at the bottom. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is use our Journey Glaze. Now, the one bow that I colored and cut out earlier, I will show you how I'm going to do this one as well. I'm going to put my bow on my wreath right about here. So I'm going to pop it up on my card, and then I'm going to use my Journey glaze, not only on my bow, but also on my little berries that I have, because then when they dry, they will be shiny and you'll see them a lot better. I always do my glaze at the end of building my card. And the reason I do that is so that I don't touch it, because I can set it aside then and let it dry. Journey glaze, depending on how thick you put it on, is going to take a few minutes to dry. I like to leave mine, when I put Journey glaze on, I like to leave it for about an hour before I try touching it, because I don't take any chances. So there's that part of my card. Now what I'm going to do is apply my Journey my Journey glaze. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm doing my little dots. I'm just putting a dot of Journey glaze, not glaze. Although, to be very honest and let you know, you can use this glaze as a glue. It will hold things once it's dried. So put on my glaze here, and then go back to my bow and put my glaze on my bow. Now you do want to make sure that you get your glaze all over, and when you're done you can hold it up a little bit and make sure that you don't see any bare spots. Okay, I'm good there. Now my very final thing is to take some of our sparkle dust, and I'm going to put over a piece of scrap paper under my card. Now I don't want a lot of the sparkle. The sparkle dust is can get overpowering. So what I do is somebody has asked me, where did you get your little spoons at? Well, to be honest with you, I don't know. I've had them for umpteen years. But I think they're a lot like some places have the stirrers for your coffee. And I think that's probably what it's similar to. So I put it on and I shake off any excess. And I think you can see it will sparkle besides my shine. So I'll lay this aside now and just let it dry. And once it's dried, it's ready to be sent. This is Jane Fires, Journey Coach 151. If you have any questions, you can email me at Serif, my last name backwards, SERIF1 at AOL.com. All of my products may be found on my website at www.funstampersjourney.com/angelhugs. Have a great and blessed day.